But let us hear from Mike McDaniel. Always well-reasoned. He's a man who has big thoughts. He's a philosophical man. He's a silly man, but he's a good coach. And this is what he had to say on the narrative of them losing these big games. He thinks that, a lot of it's them beating themselves.
I think it's interesting that the inside the locker room and indirectly the question that you just posed, you guys are sharing the same sentiment, which is not that we're not good enough. So that, I think, is what the feeling of the locker room is that when we lose, we beat ourselves. And it so happens, I think, in this season, that when we have beaten ourselves, there's been there's been 3 teams that have really taken advantage of that, and they all have winning records. Correlation, causation. The bottom line is we're finding different things out that have nothing to do with our opponents, in my opinion, as much as they deserve credit. And the Kansas City Chiefs have hardware from last season and are used to winning, and they played hard.
I think that's I agree. I feel a lot of that from these games is that they have not looked like they have been outclassed, but their execution has been frustrating at the end of these games or in the key moments of these games, and especially with getting off to rough starts.
That's part of it, though. Part of it is when you're climbing that hill, right? You tend to press more than a team who's already on top because they have the attitude they have to come get us. And when you look at Cincinnati, I mean, you look at Kansas City, you look at Philadelphia, you look at Buffalo, okay? It's not that they don't look at the Dolphins as, formidable opponents. It's that they get into their minds that, hey, we've been here, we've done this, we know what it takes to win these types of games, and let's go out and act accordingly, like we have been on top of this mountain. And sometimes I think the Dolphins press, either from a coaching perspective, trying to outsmart the other team, or from just decision making, or from trying to make too much out of something to try and, show that you can compete. When in actuality, you should actually just kind of take it down a notch and just play your game and play football and let it, play out the way it does. Every time this team has pressed, it usually results in Tua forcing a ball or somebody trying to make 15 yards when only 2 yards is there and they fumble. There is always that pressing kind of mentality, like you want so much to prove that you belong, when the fact of the matter is you have to just accept that you belong and go out and do the things that you've done well.
Here's a little bit more from Mike McDaniel. Says it was a hard film session on Monday.
The loss is the loss. It was hard to watch the tape. That hurt is healthy, though. I was very proud of the way we invested ourselves into the work of week of practice last week. I was proud of how we didn't run from that tape, which can be painful. If you're going to lose the game, you might as well make it purposeful. I think we've lost 2 games since the Buffalo game, but we made the Buffalo loss purposeful, and we've approached practice collectively at a heightened level across the board. And we have no other plans but to use this experience purposefully as well moving forward.
Good. Fix it. Got 2 weeks. Got 2 weeks before the Raiders roll into town.
Hey, but really don't fix it.
Yeah, fix it. Yeah, let's get through it. When is that moment? Can you give me an exact date though of when I know that they're ready to win? Because I would like that moment.
No, here's what'll happen.
Christmas against the Cowboys is
they'll win 3 games in a row, and then you'll they fixed it. When in actuality it's just It's just the season, right?
I don't really know like what could be the fix-it game unless like they win on the road against Baltimore. I don't really know what is the game
I think
that's going to
between
make you feel that they fixed it.
here's the deal: they play the Cowboys,
Cowboys
they
is a
play
good
Buffalo, and they play the Ray. Who they play?
The last 3 weeks of the season are a gauntlet. It's hosting Cowboys, on the road in Baltimore, hosting the Bills.
You got to win 2 of those 3.
Yep.
You have to. And I'm not the guy that would normally put this out there, but at that moment of the season, right, whereas you're going to have already played 14 games, now it's how do we compete against these teams moving forward in the playoffs?
Yeah, they're going to be favored in every game up until that Cowboys game. You know, like I think the Jets were feeling a little froggy. And by the way, this Aaron Rodgers, dude, stop throwing in front of the cameras on Monday Night Football, dude. Enough already.
He probably doesn't
throw at the practice facility, you show pony.
I bet he does.
Here's the problem. The problem is not even that. We can take this a step further and say, why in the hell are they on Monday Night Football?
Oh, well, it's because of him. He's the reason. They can't flex out Monday nights.
It's a Zion thing. The Pelicans were on TV all the time during Zion's first year, except for Zion wasn't there.
But the Dolphins are going to be, for the next 5, they're going to be favored in all of them. They're hosting the Raiders in New York, in New York for the Jets, in Washington, Monday Night Football, hosting the Titans, and then hosting the Jets before, and that's on
wow.
And then they
Black Friday.
Yeah, no, the one on Black Friday is the one on the road. That's the one on the road.
The Jets, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I got a whole month before I can legitimize the Dolphins.
Yeah, pretty much.
God.
Not really, because at that point you could have a 2 or 3 game lead.
You could.
I mean, yeah, and we will, but it's not. I've fallen victim of the narrative. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Here,
you're scared of the narrative.
Can I just say this? Can I just say this?
Scared.
Where this franchise has been in the last 10 years, and where they are now, I'm trying very hard not to just overreact to the circumstances that they have this year, when in the last 20 years, you've never even had the right to have this conversation because they haven't been where they are now.
Yeah,
you kind of have to put it in its proper perspective while still being upset. I'm not saying you can't be upset about losing, but you have to put it in its proper perspective, is that you ingrates. This is the first time in a long time that you've, where the conversation has been this team can compete with anybody in the NFL. And
if the Dolphins continue to do what they've been doing, which is beat the teams that they should beat and beat the games they're favored in,
they'll be 12-5.
If they got to week 16 and they were already 11 wins into this thing, I mean, yeah, and you're doing what you. First of all, you'd probably already have. You probably need to just win one of those last 3 to clinch the playoffs for sure.
Yeah.
And if you did win 2 out of those last 3, then
you're talking about 13-4. So that's my point. Let's calm down a little bit, right? I get everybody's upset about the loss, and you wanted to see them show well against one of the upper echelon teams, but they're one of the upper echelon teams because they've been doing it for years. You just got to the party. So you got to kind of like
you got to the party. You were a little underdressed, I didn't realize
you haven't been there before. This is a new invite, right? Like you used to go into birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese, and all of a sudden you got invited to the Met Gala.
Yeah, now you're wearing an elk costume at Prime 112.
Yeah, it's like, I don't belong here. I'm not made for this world. And it's like, they say, Tua, would you like to try some escargot? He goes, what's that? And
it's amazing.
Patrick Mahomes last time he goes,
he doesn't know what snails are. Hey, you guys remember that totally different than I do. You remember it as him wearing an elf costume while eating that Prime 112. I remember it for the $4,000 worth of stone crabs some guy bought just to show off with his girl.
Did you?
Right?
Because the thing that I actually remember, besides me wearing an elf
No.
costume, was how much that waiter hated Marcos for asking for hot sauce.
Dude. God,
He was playing with the hot sauce.
He hated
oh
Marcos.
my God, he didn't want to look at me. He didn't even want to look at me.
You want what? Ew. Turned his nose up at you.
Yeah.
We went to this nice restaurant. You guys got sliders, which is a whole
They were
nother.
good though. Oh, they were good.
Mhm.
Take a quick break. The damage is done, my friend. Is next.
Ooh.